Guys, welcome back, and today of course we are here to review round 13. Pretty big round. We started off with a pretty big upset with the Tigers going on to beat the Crows, and of course we did finish on the King's birthday clash on Monday between Collingwood and Melbourne. But we will start of course with the Adelaide v Richmond game. With the Tigers, not really expecting much to come out of them in this contest with Dustin Martin out. The Tigers brought their pressure, the pressure that we probably saw from them in their premiership years in the end. Then they stood up really well away from home to beat the Crows by 8 points. Richmond 79 to the Crows 71. There were a couple of injury concerns from this game. One was Kieran Strawn. He was actually subbed out in the third quarter with a groin injury, which really concerned the Crows and really hampered them throughout the rest of the game because he was the only sole ruck. So they had to chuck Burgess through there, which really hampered them. And on the Tigers side, Dion Prestia came off late in the last quarter with calf soreness, so it's unsure to know about the severity of that injury at this stage. But the Tigers started this game very well. They kicked the first 3 goals of it, and the Crows' pressure was way off early in the game. They kept on letting the Tigers play that kick mark game, which was just way too easy for them early in the contest. The Crows did lift late in the quarter, though, and ended up with 2 late goals to only be down by a goal at quarter time. The Crows started to improve in the second quarter and took the lead back midway through the term, but the Tigers brought themselves back to within 1 point going into half time. And just when I thought, or most people would have thought, I believe, that the Crows were just going to run away with this one, the Tigers fired their shot. The Crows did actually get an early goal, but the Tigers would kick 5 quick goals in a row and take a game-high 20-point lead. And after the teams traded a few goals late in the quarter, the Tigers would take a 22-point lead into three-quarter time, which did set up for a big final quarter, with the Crows kicking the first 2 goals of the term. But the Tigers did respond with one of their own, and for the Crows, they just kept on butchering the footy going forward, just couldn't hit their targets, missed some crucial chances, and the Tigers, in a really professional final quarter, were able to hold on for an upset win against the Crows by 8 points. So a great win from the Tigers in the end, and the Crows, this is really concerning now. This team was supposed to be expecting to jump into the 8 this year, and right now they're sitting in 14th spot, I believe, and are in real trouble of missing the 8. So getting to the statistics of this game, of course, Jordan Dawson top scored with the 124, Toby Nankervis with the 118, Luke Nankervis with the 111, Michael Lanny with the 108, Taranto with the 108 as well, and then Jaden Short with the 106. And now, of course, guys, we get to the votes. Now, as we're doing every single game of the year, we're giving a 3-2-1 voting system. We're tallying all that up. I've got an Excel sheet ready to go. And at the end of the season, the bye between the finals and the regular season, we'll be doing a live countdown of every single vote to then decide who will be the second ever Boundary Riders medalist. The first ever one was Zach Butters, and this year we'll have a second ever winner. So my brother gave the votes to this game. We did confer, but he said that these were the 3 best players on the ground. So in the end, 3 votes went to Noah Bolter, 2 votes went to Toby Nankervis, and the 1 vote went to Liam Baker. After that, we get to Friday night, and again, a little bit of an upset here. The Bulldogs up against the Lions, and the Lions were really convincing in this game, coming off the bye, had a very good win in the end by 43 points, 114 to the Lions, 71 to the Bulldogs. So in this game, the Lions did have a lot of territory in the first 15 to 20 minutes, but just couldn't actually convert it on the scoreboard in a very tight first quarter. And the Lions, with a late goal, did actually take a 3-point lead into quarter time, despite not really taking a lot of their chances. The Lions in the second term did, however, take a lot of their chances. They kicked 5 goals in a row to break the game open, and the Dogs really couldn't get much back to stop them. The Lions were taking a very strong 33-point lead into half-time. The Dogs continued to struggle in the second half, with the Lions holding that 5-plus goal lead for the majority of the second half. With the Dogs missing the likes of Darcy and Norton up forward, the Brisbane Lions were able to keep Ugelhagen under wraps, and really, they didn't have many other options. O'Donnell played up forward for the majority of the contest, but he wasn't providing a lot, and in the end, the Lions were able to run away. Pretty convincing winners in the end by 43 points, like I just said. Now up forward, the Lions had a very good game, with Eric Hipwood getting into some form with 6 goals. He was massive. Joe Danaher also kicked 2 goals, 3, so he could have ended up with a lot more. Lockie Neal in the midfield kicked a couple of goals as well. So the Lions did really well, 100 plus for them, which is really showing a lot more of their attacking prowess that they have missed for a lot of this year. So great performance from the Lions, and maybe this can be a catalyst to push them higher in the ladder this year, maybe make the finals berth. But let's get to the statistics in this game. AFL Fantasy front, of course, Eric Hipwood top score with the 140 with his massive performance. Lockie Neal with the 128, Bailey Williams with the 115, Trelaw with the 108, Danaher with the 102, and then Jared Berry with the 98, rounding up the top 5. Now, let's get to the votes in this game. Of course, 3 votes went to Eric Hippard with his 6-goal performance. He was great. Lachie Neale with the 2 votes, and the 1 vote has gone to Jared Berry. Now, he did very well in the midfield throughout the whole game, but his role in the first half against Marcus Bontempelli was brilliant. Kept him to really no influence in the game, and then ran out a pretty good game from his clearance performance as well. So great job from Jared Berry. He deserved the 1 vote. After that, let's get to the first game on Saturday, and a really tight contest. Of course, we did stream this game. Hawthorn were able to hold on with the last-minute goal from Luke Bruce to win this one, 85-79 against the Giants. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Ned Reeves. He was subbed out in the third quarter with a back injury, but the Hawks were able to play really well through the midfield despite not really having a recognised ruckman. So let's get to the game itself. The Hawks had some dominance in the early stages of this game, but missed some big chances. And after a low-scoring first quarter, the Giants actually led by 4 points at quarter time. Again, the Hawks continued to butcher the ball in front of goal with 1 goal for in the quarter, and the Giants really took charge. The Giants kicked the last 3 goals of the first half and took a 23-point lead into half-time. Hawthorn finally, though, took their chances in the third quarter and got their run and carry game going, which really brought the spark back to the Hawks, finishing with 6 goals, 2 in the third quarter, and took a late lead to take a 3-point advantage into the 3-quarter time break. And Hawthorn early in the final quarter took a 9-point lead, and at that point, I kind of thought that Hawthorn were going to run away with it, but every single time that the Hawks tried to break away, the Giants would get a quick reply, which set up for a great finish to this game. It was goal for most of the final quarter, but a contentious call late in the game against the Giants gave Luke Bruce an opportunity in the pocket to seal the game, which he did, and Hawthorn were able to win by 1 goal. So we'll talk about the decision in a minute. Let's just talk about the statistics though. Top scorer in the end was Lachie Whitfield with the 123, Kieran Briggs with the 115, Will Day with the 111, James Peatling with the 98, Josh Weddle with the 92, and then Jake Riccardi with the 86. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Will Day, 2 votes went to Josh Weddle, absolutely brilliant, and 1 vote went to Lachie Whitfield. Now the reason why Josh Weddle got the 2 votes in the end is because he played in the ruck for the majority of the second half and really competed quite well against Kieran Briggs. Brought the ball to ground, went up forward for stages and kicked the goal as well. So I thought he was brilliant, Josh Weddle. Played in a role that he probably wouldn't have expected to play and did really well, helped Hawthorn get away in the end. Now with that decision against Tom Green, I really struggle about it because I mean, maybe by the letter of the law, it's paid. But at the end of the day, I think it's really contentious, and I don't think it should have been called in the end. I think that should have been just let go. It was so minimal that James Sicily did act a bit like he got shot by a gun. It was not that much in it. And Tom Green, I think, got very unlucky about it. I think maybe he did have a little bit of frustration in the second half because he was well held in the middle. He didn't get to have much influence in the second half. So maybe he just had a little bit of frustration come out. Maybe the umpires saw that and then paid the decision. But I think it was a very harsh call, and I don't think it should have been called. But at the end of the day, Hawthorn, I think, probably deserved to win that game. I think they dominated the majority of it, and I think the Giants were very lucky to be that close to that point in the last quarter. But that's just my opinion anyway. So next up, guys, let's get to the West Coast Eagles up against North Melbourne. And North Melbourne have finally claimed their first win of 2024, winning by 9 points over the West Coast Eagles, 74 to North Melbourne, 65 to the Eagles. Were a couple of injury concerns from this game. First of all, it was Dawson for North Melbourne, who was subbed out after quarter time with a shoulder injury. So a bit concerning there. He was a high draft pick last year, so a little bit disappointing for North. And on West Coast side, Liam Duggan had a head clash with a teammate late in the last quarter and looked uneasy on his feet, so likely was concussion, so he'll probably be out next week. But let's get to the game itself. In a shocking first quarter, neither side could actually kick a goal until the Eagles finally split the big sticks and led by 9 points at quarter time. The scores were 10-1 at the first break, so very hard to get goals early in this one. North missed some chances in the first term, but really hit their straps in the second and took the lead late in the term and took an 8-point lead into half-time. But I do have to mention the fact that the Eagles were woeful in front of goal in the first half, that finishing with 2 goals, 9 at half-time. And in the second half, they continued to miss their chances throughout the third term, going into three-quarter time with 2 goals, 15 on the scoreboard. They missed so many chances. And on the other side of it, North Melbourne made the Eagles look foolish at times, with the Kangas able to hit the scoreboard in the third term and take a comfortable 27-point advantage into three-quarter time. So it looked like at that point North Melbourne may well run away with this game. And when captain Jai Simpkin kicked an early goal in the final quarter, it looked as good as done with a 33-point lead. But finally the Eagles would kick straight and got on a massive 6-goal run to take a surprising lead for the first time since early in the second quarter. But another controversial decision against the Eagles proved costly as Simpkin became the hero to kick the goal, regain the lead, and the Roos in the end were able to compose themselves and run away with their first win of the season by 9 points. So it's a great win from North Melbourne in the end. We'll talk about the controversial free kick in a minute, but let's just look at the statistics. Top scorer in the end was Jai Simpkin with the 132, Tristan Cherry with the 129, Zach Fisher with the 115, Elliot Yeo with the 108, Nick Larkey with the 107, and the 5 goals as well. He was brilliant. And then Jamie Cripps with the 106. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Jai Simpkin, 2 votes went to Tristan Cherry, and the 1 vote went to Nick Larkey. Now the free kick against Elliot Yeo, which was holding the ball for Jai Simpkin, which resulted in the goal for North, was a really bad call in my opinion. I don't think Elliot Yeo dove on it or dragged it in. The ball went under him as he tackled a North Melbourne opponent. I can't remember who it was, but that ball went under him and immediately got tackled by Jai Simpkin. So there was no prior opportunity. There was no dragging the ball in because the ball rolled under him and then he grabbed it. It wasn't like he dragged it under himself. So dreadful call from the umpire, and we'll talk about another contentious decision in the next game because every single game of Saturday resulted in a very controversial free kick to end the game. So I will just quickly mention though that the West Coast Eagles had no right to be in this game. North Melbourne dominated them for the majority of the first 3 quarters. West Coast, the only thing they had on their side was the fact that they missed some opportunities. They did show they had chances in this game, but at the end of the day, North Melbourne deserved to win it. So for West Coast fans to be that upset, I don't know about that because, to be honest with you, West Coast got demolished for the majority of this game against a team that they should be beating. And at home, this was a pretty poor performance by the West Coast Eagles. But that free kick shouldn't have been paid. So let's get to the St Kilda versus Gold Coast game. And St Kilda, after leading for the majority of it, were able to hold on against the fast-finishing Gold Coast Suns by 3 points. St Kilda finished on 51 and the Gold Coast Suns 48. A couple of injury concerns on St Kilda's side. Dougal Howard was subbed out in the first quarter with a left hamstring strain. Really tough as he missed the first 5 weeks of the season with a hammy. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit more of a longer stint on the sidelines for Dougal Howard. And then Brad Hill came off late in the game with a knee to the head, so possible concussion there for Brad Hill would be a big loss as he's had a pretty decent season for the Saints. But let's get to the game itself. And the Saints made this game an absolute dogfight in the first quarter. There was only 1 goal kicked for the first 15 minutes of the game. But despite the Saints having a lot of the first term, they didn't put enough on the scoreboard and only took a 12-point lead into quarter time. But honestly, they should have had a 4 or 5 goal lead. And I think a lot of other teams who can kick goals regularly would have had a better margin at quarter time. In the second quarter, it was much of the same. The Saints wouldn't allow the Suns much space at all. But the Suns didn't do themselves any sort of favours, continuing to just kick it sideways, not going forward quick enough, and the Saints were able to just flood back really easily. And the Saints dominated the majority of the first half, but just couldn't put it on the scoreboard, only leading by 14 points at halftime. Looking at the territory battle at halftime as well, the inside 50 count was St Kilda at 25 to the Gold Coast 17, but it just felt even worse than that on the Gold Coast side, and they should have done a lot better. In the third quarter, though, it was more of a goal-for-goal sort of contest, and another grinding quarter. The Saints kept it their way, but the Suns did lift the pressure, which was non-existent in the first half. And the Suns did win the third term, but Saints still led by 8 points at 3-quarter time. And as it was all night, the game was a grind in the final quarter. It was such a boring game, same as what Damien Hardwick said at the end of it. But the Suns, for the first time in the night, took the lead midway through the last quarter. But again, a contentious free kick for Max King this time gave the Saints an opportunity to regain the lead, and Max King converted his chance, which in the end saw St Kilda hold on to a 3-point win. Talk about the free kick in a minute. Let's talk a little about the statistics though, and the Gold Coast defenders really padded their statistics in this game. So Sam Flanders top scored with the 163, Alex Sexton with the 130, Euland with the 124, Joel Jeffrey with the 120, Jack Sinclair with the 117, and then Sam Collins with the 112. So let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Jack Sinclair, 2 votes went to Sam Collins, and the 1 vote went to Marcus Windhager. Now he did another tagging role this time. He went on Took Miller, really held him up, so it was a really good job. I think they mentioned it after the game, cut the head of the snake and the body will die. And that kind of was a feeling of that in the midfield. They took down the biggest man and the captain and Took Miller, and he did a brilliant job. So Marcus Windhager deserved the 1 vote. But let's talk about the free kick. Absolutely nothing in it. I can't believe that Mac Andrew got a free kick paid against him there. There was nothing in that. I think the umpire was almost 100 metres away when he called that decision. Absolutely not needed. That's the 3rd contentious decision on the Saturday. It was not needed. Out of any of them, I would pay a free kick. It's probably the Tom Green one. But at the end of the day, I think all 3 of them probably are let go a lot of the time in the game, and I don't know why the umpire called it. So I really hate that the umpires had to try and rear their heads into these games, because they were very close games of footy, and even though the St Kilda game wasn't exactly entertaining, it still made for an interesting last few minutes of the game, which was completely killed off when the umpires made a pretty poor decision, in my opinion. So now let's get to the first game on Sunday. And after the Swans had a very sluggish start to this game, they went to overrun the Cats and win in the end by 30 points. 112 to the Swans, 82 to the Cats. Was one injury concern from this game, which was Shannon Neal, who came off in the third term with a quad injury, and he was subbed out just before three-quarter time. But let's get to the game itself. The Swans had a few opportunities early in this game, but the Cats' game plan in the first quarter was brilliant. They made their half forwards go high up at the stoppage and then run back inside 50 to try and catch the Swans defenders off guard, and it made a real difference in the first quarter. Along with their pressure as well, the Cats was immense. And at quarter time, the Swans were kept goalless. The Cats led by 29 points. Now, the start of the second quarter was much of the same for Geelong, and halfway through the quarter, they held a 35-point advantage. And at this point, I thought my tip was absolutely mega brain that I tipped the Cats and saying that the Swans were going to be sluggish coming off the bye. But then the Swans finally got into gear, led by their midfield quad in Heaney, Warner, Golden, and Grundy. The Swans got on a big run with 5 quick goals and were only down by 5 points at half time. It was goal for goal early in the third quarter until we saw Tom Papley enter the fray, and he kicked 2 late goals to see the Swans take an 11-point advantage into three-quarter time. The Swans did kick 4 goals, 7 in the third term, but did take a lot more of their chances early in the final quarter with 2 quick goals and seemingly had the game won. But the Cats did rally with 1 late charge and kicking 3 goals in a row. However, Chad Warner would put the game to bed, running into the open goal for the Swans, and eventually they were able to run out winners by 30 points. So a great win from Sydney. In the end, they now are 11-1 and are 8 points on top of the ladder with a game in hand. So really good performance. Geelong, they had a really good game plan going into it, but they just couldn't hold that pressure for the 4 quarters, and unfortunately that was really their downfall. Great win from Sydney, really happy with their performance. But there are still a few concerns. I don't think they've sewn up a premiership by any means. I don't think you don't win premierships in round 13. So the Swans still have a lot to do to continue their form, but at the moment they are the form team of the comp. So great win from the Swans. Let's look at the statistics now. Top scorer in the end was Errol Goulden with a massive 151. Great performance from him. Isaac Heaney with the 108. Brodie Grundy with the 106. Chad Warner with the 100. Rowbottom with the 97. And then Tom Papley rounds out the top 6 with the 95. Now let's get to the votes in this game. And this was super tough to split the 4 players in this game between Heaney, Goulden, Grundy, and Warner. But in the end, I've gone with these 3 guys to get the votes. 3 votes went to Errol Goulden, 2 votes went to Brodie Grundy, and the 1 vote went to Isaac Heaney. Now, the reason, I think maybe some people would wonder why Brodie Grundy got the votes here and not Chad Warner. And the reason was, I think Brodie Grundy in the second quarter, midway through it, really took control of Reece Stanley in the ruck. And I really think without Brodie Grundy's performance, I think that Sydney would have really struggled to get their other midfielders up and going. So that's why I gave Brodie Grundy the 2 votes in the end. But of course, Chad Warner was massive in that game. You can't take anything away from him. He was brilliant and is arguably the most in form out of the 4 of them. After that, let's get to Sunday night, the game before Queen's birthday, which was the Bombers up against Carlton, the old foes of these 2 sides. And in the end, Carlton ran away pretty comfortable winners by 26 points in the end. Carlton finished on 96 and the Bombers were on 70. There was an injury concern from this game, which was Will Setterfield, who injured his knee in the 4th term and then he was subbed out. So that's a bit concerning because he just returned from injury. So unfortunately, he's probably going to have another stint on the sidelines. So let's get to the game itself. The Blues started the stronger of the 2 teams, kicking the first 3 goals of the game, but the Bombers missed so many opportunities in the first quarter with 1 goal 5 at quarter time. And the Blues did take the majority of their chances to take a 16-point lead into the first change. The Blues would continue to take their chances in the second term with 5 straight goals, and the Bombers had some opportunities but only kicked 2 goals too, and at halftime the Blues led by a pretty significant 32-point lead. Now the Bombers, as they did the majority of the night, were winning the territory battle, especially in the third term, but missed so many crucial chances in front of goal. And even though they had 9 more inside 50s, the Bombers, they butchered it in front of goal. 3 goals 6 in the third term to Carlton's 1 goal 1, and the Bombers were down by 15 points at three-quarter time. But as I'm alluding to here, they could have been a lot closer. And in the end, this proved costly as the Blues started strong in the final term with 4 quick goals to put the game to bed. The Bombers kicked a few in response, but the game is well and truly over, and the Blues ran out comfortable winners by 26 points. So a great win from Carlton in the end. They moved to second spot on the ladder, and they are really fighting well at the moment. They had a bit of a stagnant period about 4 or 5 weeks ago, but they've definitely bounced back in the last couple of weeks. So a great win from them, and the Bombers got to feel a little bit nervous right now. They've had a great start to the season, but they're falling off the pace, and we've seen this story before. So the Bombers, they need to go into their bye, really regroup, and then go hard in the second half of the season. I'm not counting them off just yet. I think they're still finals bound, but right now they've got to be careful of falling off the cliff because we've seen this story before. But let's get to the statistics in this game. Top scorer was Nick Martin with the 120. George Hewitt, great game from him with the 101. Zach Merritt with the 100, did really well to shake off the tag of Chin Cotter. Sam Durham with the 97. Elijah Hollins with the 96. And then Jai Caldwell with the 94. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Tom De Koning, 2 votes went to Elijah Hollins, and the 1 vote went to George Hewitt. Now I honestly think this is one of the best games I've seen from Tom De Koning. And maybe at the ruck battle, I would say that Todd Goldstein was maybe just in front. But around the ground, I felt like Tom De Koning absolutely killed him. And I feel like this was a real coming-of-age game for Tom De Koning. And Tom De Koning really growing into his own in the last couple of weeks. A great win from Carlton and a great performance from him. So guys, let's get to the final game. Of course, it was the King's birthday clash on Monday. Collingwood up against Melbourne, and Collingwood led for the majority of the afternoon and ran out winners by 38 points in the end. Collingwood 89, Melbourne 51. A couple of really big injury concerns from this game. First of all, it was Christian Petrarca, who came off a quarter time with a massive hit to his ribs. He played in the second term, but was subbed out at half time. So really concerning there for Christian Petrarca. Hopefully he's okay, but I'll be very surprised if he plays next match for the Demons. I can't remember if they had the bye next week. But then moving on to Nick Dacos. He came off in the third quarter with a leg injury and he was subbed out. Now at this stage, I'm unsure as to the severity of it, but really concerning there for Collingwood. Let's get to the game itself though. So the Pies dominated the majority of the game and started this game brilliantly with the only 3 goals of the first quarter. The Demons did have some chances but only kicked 4 behinds to show for it at the quarter time break and were down by 15 points at the first change. In the second term, the Demons kicked a few goals to bring the margin back under 10 points, but then the Pies really started to pull away. They kicked 3 goals late to extend their margin to a 27-point lead at the major change. Now, moving into the third quarter, the Demons tried to pull their way back, but every single time it felt like the Demons were trying to somewhat get back into it. They just missed a few opportunities, and the Pies were able to get down the other end and kick the goal. In the third term, the Demons kicked 2 goal 5, and the Pies were able to kick 4 straight, and the 3-quarter time margin was 34 points. And after that, the Pies kicked the first goal of the final term, and the game was put to bed as the Pies ran away comfortable winners by 38 points. So basically, when the Pies got out to about a 4 or 5 goal margin, that's basically where the game sat for the majority of the second half as well. So great win from Collingwood in the end. They break back into the 8. We'll talk about the ladder in a minute. But Melbourne right now are really in a danger zone of missing the finals. So really unfortunate loss for them. And if Petrarca's out for a long period, they could be severely hampered going forward, the Demons. But let's get to the statistics in this game. Top scorer in the end was Max Gawn. He was one of the few shining lights in this game with the 148. Josh Dacos with the 130. Crisp with the 104. Lipinski with the 103. Maynard with the 102. And then Trent Rivers with the 101. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Josh Dacos. 2 votes went to Jack Crisp. And the 1 vote went to Max Gawn. So guys, that rounds out all the games for the weekend. So let's take a look at the ladder moving into round 14 next week. So the Swans have a game in hand and are on top by 8 points with the 44. Carlton moving to second spot with their win over the Bombers with 36. The Bombers still sitting in third with 34. Port Adelaide had the bye this week. They're sitting with 32. With the better percentage over Geelong and Collingwood sitting in 6th. Fremantle are in 7th and the GWS hanging on to 8th spot. The Gold Coast with their loss against St Kilda sitting in 9th. Melbourne straggling in 10th spot with a very questionable percentage. The Bulldogs with their loss are in 11th with a good percentage, but are really going to struggle to make that top 8 now if they don't get their key forwards back. Hawthorn, a sneaky chance to make the 8 now. They're only 1 game out of it, but their percentage is really poor. They're going to have to lift that up. They sit on 24 points. The Brisbane Lions making their charge now with 22 points in 13th. The Saints, with their win, move into 14th. The Crows, all the way down in 15th position. Don't think many people would have seen them down there. The West Coast Eagles are in 16th. Richmond, with their win this week against the Crows, are still in 17th, but with 8 points. And of course, North Melbourne did get their win, but they are still sitting bottom of the ladder. But guys, that is the review for round 13. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you did watch this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. We do have a video essay coming out tomorrow as well for North Melbourne. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. And if you listen on Spotify, of course, make sure to leave us a follow and make sure to leave us 5 stars. If you do follow as well, you do get notified on the podcast that we release every week. Probably be coming out Thursday this week. You also get notified on the reviews and the trade videos that we release as well. But guys, thank you for the support so much lately. We really do appreciate it. And I guess we'll catch you all next week.